Hey everybody, Happy New Year. It's me, V, the Sepia Scholar, and I'm here to give you a review of another episode of And Just Like That. It's season 1, episode 4, Some of My Best Friends. I hope that you all are happy and safe, and the new year has started off great for you. I've already had my soup Jumu, aka the Freedom Soup. Happy Haitian Independence Day. And with that being said, let's get into this episode. This episode was all right. It seemed like it was kind of a filler episode, and so I'm gonna try to go through it pretty quickly. It's pretty funny to me that this show got at least 40 minutes to be great. The original show was, in a 30-minute block. They got through the story pretty quickly, and this they get to basically branch out the story more. They throw in a little bit of humor and everything, but some of my best friends, I believe, is a reference to a lot of times when you have a particular minority group and another person is accused of doing something that might be problematic, they say, and some of my best friends are, we say, insert black, gay, whatever you want to add in. Funny story, I had a friend, he's Caucasian or whatever, and he did something kind of problematic, and I teased him and said, hey, guess what? I hope you're not going to parties and telling everybody that I'm your one black friend to get a pass. And that really rocked his world. He really thought about it, and we laugh about it to this day. I have a good time with him. And yes, some of my good friends are the Caucasian persuasion. I have friends of all diverse colors, genders, all types of people. We all make the world go round, right? So with that being said, let's get into the episode. So the episode starts off with Carrie waking up in bed. Everything is a mess. There's boxes everywhere. I noticed that there were no sheets on the bed. She was sleeping up, wrapped up in her old clothes, and you could tell her life was in shambles. A garbage truck wakes her up, and when I noticed where she was at, I knew it looked familiar, but she's back in her old apartment. She walks into the kitchen. You could tell it looks old. It has white appliances. Says shoe boxes on the counter, and she pulls out this ancient looking coffee maker to try to start some coffee. And from that scene, they flip over to Charlotte, who's at a coffee shop herself, trying to schedule Harry's colonoscopy. So a quick break from that. Notice throughout this episode, they keep mentioning his colonoscopy and then pushing it back. I pray to goodness they're not trying to kill off Harry, Lord. I don't know if I could take it. I'm sick of them. They need to leave that nice man alone. But they mentioned colonoscopy all throughout, so I can tell they're probably building up into another episode, which, by the way, I have one more episode to do to be caught up, so I'm going to try to do that today, which is episode 5, so I'll be back with that. But with that being said, LTW, which is Nicole Ari Parker's character, is trying to grab breakfast with her 2 kids. They are adorable. It's a boy and a girl. They got their little uniforms on. Little baby girl turns and speaks to her in French, and she's apparently ordering a croissant. So they're basically showing that she's well off. She has the model family with the 2 kids, 1 boy, 1 girl. They're successful. The husband is successful. Everybody, black excellence, right? So that was pretty cool. So her and Charlotte meet up at the school steps because I guess their kids go to the same school. I'm guessing Rose is the same age, but Rose looks older to me. I don't know. Or maybe Charlotte is over at the school's activity program because she doesn't have another job. She's a stay-at-home mom. I'm not sure. But either way, they both show up together and they both realize they ordered an extra coffee for each other. So they're besties. So that's probably why the episode's called Some of My Best Friends. They're building the outside relationships out of Charlotte, Miranda, and Carrie. So other friends that they have. So then they flash over to the professor, the black professor, Nia Wallace. I hate calling her the black professor, but that's how I remember her. That's kind of how they're building her up in the show. Getting ready, and her husband is bringing her coffee, and she's wearing this stunning Afro print smock, giving the beautiful braids. They smooch, black love, it's everything. Then they go right back to LTW and Charlotte having a parents meeting up with the other set of parents about the field trip, and Charlotte is bragging about how she's having this amazing field trip, and she found some really hard to get botanists to speak, and she's tell everything. This field trip sounds like amazing. Can I go? It sounded good. And there's one of the young moms who seems to be coming from Charlotte's spot that says, hey, why don't we go to an animal shelter instead? And she starts rambling on about it. And, Charlotte's not going to try to be rude, but LTW doesn't have any problem being rude or whatever, because the little young black mom, cute as a button, says to Charlotte, oh, I figured because I hadn't heard anything from you in a week that you dropped the ball. Why can't moms get along? Side note, my children have been in sports and cheerleading, and I think one of the worst experiences I ever had was with cheerleading moms. But side note, they're very catty and nasty, and it happened both times with football and at the rec center. So, ladies, stop being mean girls, stop being nasty. But LTW backs her up and tells the chick that, hey, she didn't drop the ball. Check your spam. She's never dropped the ball. So, that's them backing each other up and building their friendship. So that was a really cool scene. So right after that, LTW invites Charlotte to her husband Herbert's birthday party. Herbert. Okay. Birthday dinner. And Charlotte invites her to a dinner party, say, hey, you can come over to me. And so Charlotte calls and cancels her Harry's colonoscopy appointment. So we're over to Miranda and Steve's house, and Miranda's standing in the living room looking dazed and confused, probably because she got that sexy shotgun from Che, the gender neutral hottie, I guess. And they make fun of her saying, ooh, she's reeking of weed. And they laugh because she's all mortified, and they say it's okay, it's legal. She was like, I was just around a whole bunch of alternative types. And then, of course, the woke police showed up. They were like, oh, what do you mean by alternative types? I was like, please, just stop, Lord. I'm trying to stay with the show, Lord. And so it goes back to Carrie making her coffee, and of course the coffee maker looks like it's older than her. It pours out, it goes everywhere, so she decides to go to the corner store. And I think they're trying to recreate the scene when she walked out. She had this amazing flowing tutu, I believe, when she was in Paris, getting ready to go to Paris. Carrie always serves a look, but this look was hot mess. Carrie goes out in this rainbow bright shirt and this disheveled tutu that looked like my baby put it together. It was horrible. She looked mess. She looked homeless. I don't think they're having the fashion icon status that they're trying to do with the original show. Hated it. So she goes to the corner store, and the guy who works there asks her about her husband. She's like, he died. He had a heart attack. So he gives her the little treats for free. And she's thinking about it. She goes back and she walks into, she went from the old apartment to the new place, and she walks in and she's looking around the house. She looks confused. She sees the Peloton bike sitting there, and he had a heart attack after being on that bike. And she immediately calls her friends and says, hey, I walked in the place and I forgot Big was dead. I think I gotta sell this place. It's too many memories. I can't take it anymore. I'm gonna sell it. They're like, don't make any rash decisions. She's like, nope, gotta go. So that's the storyline. It's looking like Carrie's gonna sell her and Big's apartment. Then it flashes over to, no, they're still there. Charlotte invites them to LTW's party. Miranda says she's having a dinner with her law professor. I guess they're becoming buddies, which I think is kind of strange. You usually don't become buddies with a professor, except I had one teacher's assistant that got me through Calculus 3. Love him, wherever you are. But usually don't become buddies with those type of folks. So this is interesting, maybe because she's older and she's seeing her as a mentor. I have no clue. But while they're at the dinner, Miranda asked for another bottle. So here come the drunkie storyline again. I just wish they would just address it and keep it moving. So then we get out of that dinner scene, and my girl, a new person pulls up, and it's my girl Seema. She tells Carrie, she's the realtor. She tells Carrie that Seema means boundary in Hindi and that she has none. But personal note, the lady who plays Seema, she is my girl crush. She always has been my girl crush. Her name is Sarita Chowdhury. She was in Mississippi Masala. She was everything in that movie. She was sexy. She was smart. She was tough. And she really, really hung with Denzel on that screen. So I loved her in that. And I also loved her in Kama Sutra, A Tale of Love. Yes, it's my guilty pleasure. It's a crazy movie, but I watch it every time. But she's the princess who's a romantic rival to the main character in the Kama Sutra movie. and she's nasty and feisty, but she's serving the look, the beautiful. I love Indian movies. I love Bollywood. I love all the colors. I love everything about it, but she is everything to me. So I was so excited to see her working, and she still looks beautiful. So she walks in, and she loves the colors of the apartment, and I noticed that apartment was everything too. If you even look at my background, I love blue. I love patterns. I love all types of things that bring color to your space and balances out the energy. And so Big and Carrie's apartment is everything. But she walks in and says it all has to go. Why? Because she's trying to sell the house, and she says that prospective buyers need to be able to see themselves living there, and they can't see that with your unique stuff all up in there. She didn't say it that nice. She actually called the buyers, they're like dogs with money. Wherever you lead them, that's where they're gonna go. So that was feisty, but I get a little bit of somewhat of a Samantha vibe from her, but I love where she's going with it. So she walks into Carrie's famous closet, and she's like, I can sell this on the closet and the bathroom alone. And Carrie makes sure it says, hey, don't touch the shoes. We all know Carrie's known for her shoes. And Seema's like, it's okay, I get it. I love purses. I'm the same way. And Seema makes a horrible mistake, which she doesn't realize. She says, you know what would pull this whole place together? A Peloton. And it was hilarious. It wasn't supposed to be, because Carrie just got rid of the Peloton because Big died on that bad boy, right? So we'll see. It might have a comeback, and it might make another appearance. So they go downstairs, and Seema has a driver. Like, this chick has money. You can tell the way she looks, the way she dressed, the way she carries herself. She's a smoker. And remember, Carrie gave up her cigarettes for Aiden. So when she saw her pulling out that cigarette, she was drooling. That Pavlov was just set off signal in her head. She didn't know what to do. And Seema said, oh, I quit 14 times. And Carrie says, I quit 1. And she says, can I have a cigarette? And they sit and smoke. And in my mind, what I noticed about this show, it looks like Carrie is reverting back to the old Carrie house. She's going back to the old apartment. She's smoking cigarettes again. She's wearing the wild outfits. She's a mess. And it's like all these years passed, and you're supposed to be maturing, growing, becoming more you, but a better you. And you seem to be going back and becoming the old person that you got away from. So did you change just for Big, or did you actually grow and develop? So that's something I noticed. So now they switch over to that dreaded podcast. I'm thinking about podcasts. They're a lot of work. I have some really amazing ones that I listen to for financial things, for relationships. I listen to podcasts for all types of stuff. I love Drink Champs. Love Noriega. And all the people he brings on there. Amazing podcast. And you get liquor. So I'm all for a podcast. But this podcast that they're depicting on this show is terrible. So they have a lady. I'm going to call out that she's in a wheelchair because it stuck out to me. Why? Because I like that, sometimes they say, oh, you can't pick on people in wheelchairs because they're in wheelchairs. They're differently abled or whatever. No, this lady was giving them the business. She was letting them know she's a person too. She was cussing them out. She was telling Carrie that they all need to work on their social engagement, that Carrie had been on her social media for 3 weeks, and that's like being a corpse, and getting on them, and it was hilarious. That was one of the funny scenes. I hate podcasts, but that scene was funny. And then the lady who was going off on them, who's the boss, apparently had an inappropriate relationship with that dude that tells all the nasty, crazy jokes. And they start arguing about them breaking up and her ghosting him. And she starts talking about how dirty his house was. And Jay turns to Carrie and was like, hey, you should have used the death card on this lady, and so that she could leave you alone. She was like, no, I don't think that's the right thing. So that scene was funny to me. So they switch over to Charlotte and Harry planning the party that they invited LTW and her husband to. And Charlotte was getting on my nerves. She was being Charlotte. Love you, Charlotte, but you get on my damn nerves. And she was saying she was inviting Carrie for fashion, Miranda for politics, Stanford and Anthony, gay. So she's trying to do like a diverse dinner party or whatever. And she's like, oh, I'm going to invite the Tates, but they're too vanilla. And then she starts freaking out because she realizes she doesn't really have any black friends in her friend group, hence the title of the episode, Some of My Best Friends. And she was looking for black people to invite to the party so that Nicole Parker's character doesn't feel out of place. hey, I went to school in a mostly PWI, mostly white school, and OMG, I've always been the only black person there, so I understand what she was trying to do, but it was still getting on my nerves. So she decided she was going to invite the black neighbors who she hadn't seen for 2 years because of the pandemic. She had a brunch with them 2 years ago, and she texted the lady. She popped up at the lady's door. The lady says, I don't have other things to do. She was like, well, you need to let me know if you're actually going to do it. She starts saying, let me know if you're up to the minute we're going to leave, because even if she didn't tell this lady this, but she was like, even if she drops in, it'll give the illusion that she has black friends. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this lady is doing way too much. Just why? So, and I'm sure people do this. Speaking of myself, I had a birthday party for my baby girl, and like I told you, uh, my Caucasian bestie, showed up there with his kids, him and his two kids, and saw people in dashikis. It was hilarious, his reaction, but he had the time of his life. We all had the time of their life, time of our lives. So a party's gonna be a party no matter who's there. If it's all my little chocolate friends, all my little vanilla friends, whoever shows up, we always gonna have a good time. So, but that reminded me of that day that he was the only white person at the party. So it happens to them too. So she calls Anthony trying to find more black people to come to this party, and she's like, "Hey Anthony, what happened to that one hot black guy? The artist or painter?" And he's like, "Oh, the hot black guy I used to date." And she was like, "He's more than his color, but obviously you're calling Anthony to get this dude to come to your party because he's black, but you're gonna tell him he's more than his color." And he's like, I had to get rid. I don't have his number because Stanford burned my address book because all the 5 men I had in it. He's like, but we can invite Juan, who's Colombian but ethnically ambiguous. Ethnically ambiguous. I've been there, done that. There's some people you can't tell who, what, when, where, why, and people count them as their diversity in their friend group. And yes, they're diverse, but you and I both know you have them here because they're ethnically ambiguous. So I thought that part was hilarious. So since that was a no-go, she actually goes up to the young black mom that was giving her a hard time saying she dropped the ball, and she's like, hey, can you and Jeff come to the party? And she's like, who's Jeff? And she's like, your husband. She was like, his name is Joff. And I'm like, girl, but I understand mispronouncing somebody's name, but she purposely did that. She knew exactly who Charlotte was talking about. And even as they're having a conversation, she says she'll go, but she corrects her with the name again. And in the middle of her correcting it, LCW calls to tell Charlotte that she can't come to the other side party that Charlotte's planning for them, the dinner party. And so now she's trying to tell the other mom that she can't stand, who can't stand her, and that she can't have the party because she forgot Harry's colonoscopy. So she's blaming his colonoscopy all up and through this episode. And she uninvites her, and then she's like, well, I guess you do drop the ball. So that was another jab. So this lady's going to be coming for Charlotte, so I guess they're going to make her the mean girl of the mommy group, right? There's always one. So flashes back to Nia, the professor, and they're at a restaurant, her and Miranda, for that dinner date they had, and she's arguing with the host about a reservation, and just going off, getting sassy. I've been there, done that. Heck, I did it the other day. Sometimes you got to check a couple people, but most of the time, overall, I'm nice. But she was getting all upset, and he corrects her. He's like, I can't find you in the system. Then he finds that she had made a reservation, but yes, in San Francisco. But what I liked about her is she apologized that she was wrong about going off on this dude. So, I really like the Nia character. She's very, very relatable, cute, like her a lot. So, but she apologizes to Miranda for being spicy because she's saying she's hopped up off the fertility drugs. Now, remember I told you it looked like they took the Charlotte character and they put it in two different people to bring diversity to the show. And I've heard complaints about the diversity that's on the show, and that they're basically having the black people there. They're almost like furniture. They're in the background. Their character is not really being developed, but they just want to show that black people are there in New York. And I also saw a video where Cynthia Nixon apparently demanded that the show be super woke because she hates the original show. So she said she wouldn't come back unless they added all these PC storylines and added black people. But I don't feel like it developed the characters. Like maybe I'm spoiled by Insecure, which totally developed their characters. And then, of course, if you haven't checked it out, Harlem. I watched the entire season in one sitting. Maybe I'll talk about it. I'm not going to do a review of all the episodes, but I really, really liked how they developed the characters on the show. At first, I thought it was going to be a bootleg Run the World, but it turned out to be something different. And the only I like my man Dark Chocolate. Fine, light skinned man was Megan Good's romantic interest. Oh, Lord. Tyler Lepley. Woo! But he made the show worth watching. But there you go. So they start back to the show. So they started discussing motherhood and was it worth it? And because she had Naya had a failed IVF, and Miranda said, "Hey, I don't know if it's worth it. Brady called me a bitch this morning because I kicked out his girlfriend and made him do homework, and so sometimes I don't think that it's worth it." And Naya says that she secretly was happy that her first IVF didn't go through because she doesn't want to regret having children because she has such a stellar career. And that's a concern a lot of us have. I mean, I have a pretty strong career. I have my children too. I do both. A lot of people suffer from mommy guilt. There's times I had to leave a birthday party to go do my work because it's super duper high tech, and it involves a lot of dropping everything and going and go attend to whatever the job has. So, but I also spend a lot of quality time with my children, but there's a lot of times that you feel guilty. And I know when I first started off in my career, it was funny because whenever I would work, people would ask me where my children are. I'm like, they're in the parking lot waiting for me to get off. It's like, fool, they're at daycare. So they try to make you feel guilty for that as well. So I totally get what Naya is talking about and about the balance between motherhood and career. So Miranda tells her this story about this lady who became this big judge and how Miranda wanted to be a judge too. But then when she looks at her son, she's happy that she actually did the motherhood. And she's like, well, can you have it all? And she's like, yes, but it's hard. And I agree, it's hard work, but I feel like I have it all, and I definitely enjoy my career, and I adore my children. So just a side note, rambling, but a little bit about me. So at the end of that conversation, she tells her she's going to enjoy motherhood, and they bond over that. So now Miranda has a new friend. Charlotte has a new friend. Carrie has a new friend. They all have new friends that are outside of each other. So it flips back over to Carrie and Seema being at an open house. They're walking through this house, and it was funny because the decor, definitely the way they described it, was perfect. It's like Mad Max meets Dancing with Wolves. There's a random motorcycle in the middle. There's all these weird fur rugs. I got fur rugs too, y'all. I love them, but they white. So, and I don't have any weird random bikes in the middle, motorcycles in the middle of my place, but I definitely have an eclectic taste in decor. So, Carrie basically says she feels like she dated the 50-year-old that lives here. So basically she's saying this person has had a midlife crisis, and you can tell by their house. And Seema's like, she needs to be hooked up, and she'll take up any 50-year-old man that Carrie knows, even if he's a fixer-upper, and she'll flip him because that's what she do because she's a realtor. Love that. So she also makes a comment that the motorcycle sitting dead in the middle of the living room for no reason proves why you have to stay in the house to sell it. So then there's this older dude that comes up to Carrie, and it was so funny because I was watching it with my daughter, and he was like, she's like, oh, this old dude's trying to holler. So he walks up to her, and he's like, I'm recently divorced, and starts rambling and says, do you want to come check out the bedroom with me? So it's like, old dude trying to give her worms. I don't know what the hell was going on in this scene, but it is what it is. And she claimed that she was about to flee on her motorcycle. So I thought that line was hilarious. So now her and Seema are having drinks after this open house. And she was like, you think, because Carrie's like, the old dude that tried to holler at her was her worst nightmare. She's like, if you think that old dude was her worst nightmare, she shows him an old dude with no shirt on from a dating app. So that brings in dating apps. I might need to do a video just about that to see what y'all think about it. Comment, what do you think about dating apps? What do you think about, dating older men dating younger women? Do you think dating is crazy? Over 35. I'm over 35. So let me know what you think. And Carrie turns to her and says, how many dating apps are you on? And she was like, probably all of them. I would love for them to create a dating app, a man just for Seema, just for her. And she was like, have you been married? He was like, I've never been married. And Carrie turns to her like, it's still great that you've never been married and you're still putting yourself out there. Hold that thought. Remember that sentence. So it goes back to Charlotte and Harry practicing. They're on the elevator getting ready to go to LTW's party. And they're in there practicing Black authors because they say that's a new hot topic in Black conversations, Black authors. So they're practicing on the elevator. They talk about Zadie Smith. I'm actually going to review a Zadie Smith book on this channel because I've never heard of her before. Thank you. And just like that, put me on to somebody. I'm sure she's been out for a long time. I just read so many different things. I probably haven't gotten to her. So Harry's in the elevator and he's sweating like a pig. So I think they're building up for this man to get sick. I'm like, is this man dying? I can't do any more death on this show, y'all. But it's coming. Wait for it at the end of the video. So LTW meet them at the elevator and apologize. Her apartment is everything. If I had an apartment, that's how I want to be. All the different art, all the setup, the whole thing was stunning. It was bright. It was modern. Loved it. My daughter actually pointed out the fact that one of the photographs she had was of a lady standing in front of a colored sign. But the way that it was, and she was like, why would you want something that reminds you of something so sad in your house? But it was like, probably it's whoever took the picture, and the way that the colors blended. Sometimes you're just trying to make a statement with your art. So I was here for it. So LTW has to apologize. She meets him at the elevator and she apologizes to him because she has to go talk to the chef to apologize for her mother-in-law because of what she said about the appetizer. So looks like LTW's mother-in-law is just like Bunny. If you watch the old show, you know who Bunny is. That was Trey, Charlotte's husband's mother, and she was messed. Nothing was ever good enough. Probably going to do another video about the relationships of the original Sex and the City because it's something fun and I love to talk about it. So check that out. Coming out soon. So they go in there and they're talking and Charlotte turns to this lady and calls her by the whole wrong name. So everybody in the room is Black and beautiful and excellent. And she walks up to this lady and starts talking to her like she knows her. And she's like, I'm not that person. So it was so funny because, you know, they say we all look alike. It's mess. And Harry tries to cover it up by like, have you read Zadie Smith? So he's using those Black authors that they were practicing in the elevator to try to cover up that awkward moment. So we love Harry, right? It's hilarious. So they swing back to Carrie going into her apartment and all the color is gone. It's all beige. It's terrible, right? It's all beige, blah. And guess what? The Peloton bike is back. And it was like, she calls Miranda and she's like, have you ever watched The Wizard of Oz? It's like when they go from the sepia tone, it's like they went from the color to the sepia tones. My name is Sepia. Maybe I'll explain one day why I picked that name, but I totally get what she is saying. And she basically was upset about the compartment going away, even though she said she was all the color going away, even though she said she was going to sell it. And Miranda's like, well, you know, how do you like Seema? And she was like, I love Seema because she gives me a break because she doesn't know Big. So it's a fresh start, a new relationship that she can build outside of Big, and so she can get past him being gone. So they go back to the LTW dinner party with Charlotte, and they ask Charlotte what she does, and LTW is talking her up. She's saying she's on the board at the Met. She's saying all these amazing things about Charlotte, even though Charlotte tried to say she was just a stay-at-home mom. So they're backing each other up again. That's what friends do. So the mother-in-law starts talking trash about LTW for buying art. Oh, she spent more on her house, more on her art than me and my late husband spent on our first house. And Charlotte backs her up and talks about all the amazing art choices, why they're a good investment, all those things. And basically she was like, that lady who did that art actually did Michelle Obama's outfit. And Harry's like, I love her book. So, you know, he has to throw himself in there and he's going to make sure he uses all those Black authors they talk about in that dang moment. So Carrie, they go back to Carrie, and Carrie is putting Big's ashes in a box up in the closet. And she says, I'm going to leave you here until we figure out where you want to be. So she's basically putting him away I think was a symbolism for compartmentalizing. She's gonna move on with her life, let him be, I guess, act like he didn't exist so that she can cope for the loss. That's how grief is, right? So she goes to her rotary. She's walking around and she goes to her rotary phone. She has a rotary phone, and she finds a letter. Stanford has moved to Japan with this TikTok star that he's basically managing, and Anthony comes there and is like, yeah, he didn't want to tell you because he knew you had been disappointed with several things, including Big's death, and he doesn't want to make you feel any worse. And she was like, I'd rather know than be disappointed. Hold that note too when it comes to Stanford. So they switch back over to Charlotte and LTW. They're at coffee, and she tells her that she had thrown the dinner party, and she basically confessed that she was nervous that LTW and her husband were going to be the only black couple. And LTW was like, man, it's all right, because I was afraid that you and Harry were going to be the only white couple at my party. So she was like, I even pretended to drop the ball when I tried to invite the little mom from the mom group, and I pretended to drop the ball. And she was like, oh, you fell on the sword for me. We're definitely Thelma and Louise. So, boom, their friendship is bounded. So we'll see where it goes for the rest of the season, right? So they flip back over to Seema and Carrie. They're about to talk about the sale over sushi. And as they're talking, Seema said, I'm so sorry. You know, my movers are usually amazing. They didn't do it, but I broke a picture of yours. And she was like, what picture did you break? And she was like, oh, you broke a picture of, basically it was a picture of Carrie and Big. And she offers to replace the glass. She's saying she's sorry, and Carrie flips out. She's like, no, you can't just replace the glass. It was on his side of the bed, so he touched it all the time. So that's the only thing. It has his fingerprints on it. And she was like, you're so nonchalant about it. You're being insensitive. And she makes the strongest statement. She says, he's gone, it's broken, and no one can fix it. That pretty much sums up what happened with Big and his death and how it's affecting her life. So I get it. She's devastated. She's been holding it in. She's barely cried. So Seema apologizes. She didn't realize she was being insensitive, but she said, well, let me tell you, there's been times you've been insensitive too. And she was like, when have I been insensitive? And she tells Carrie about being insensitive about her dating. You made this comment like something was wrong with me, like, oh, you've never been married. And I'm so glad you're putting yourself back out there. Something's wrong with me. And she was like, you don't understand what good place you're in. You, even though Big is gone, you got to be with the love of your life the amount of time that you could be, for the amount of time that God lets you be. And you should just be happy that you got that time with him. And that put it all in perspective. I feel the same way. You need to enjoy people while you have them, for the amount of time that you have them, because death is a part of life. And that's why I say give people their flowers while they're alive, and love on who loves you, because you never know when they're going to go. So basically, that cemented their friendship because they got through a conflict. They both understood each other, and they basically began their friendship over yellowtail sushi. So back to the Stanford characters. So we talked about death a lot and just like that. And the guy, Willie Garrison, who played Stanford, actually passed away in the middle of the taping. And they did a whole RIP memorial to him. I loved it. And I thought it was beautiful. So just love on everybody who loves you. And I'm so happy we all made it into the new year. And God bless those who didn't. We need to stay strong, love on each other, stay healthy, stay inside. And when you're outside, be safe. And just a little heads up, I'm going to do a video on the Men of Insecure. I got to get a little bit of wine, get my thoughts together before I bring that to you all. Because you're going to have some hot and sexy Men of Insecure. And we're going to talk about all their roles, what you think about them. And I can't wait to hear what you guys think about the Men of Insecure. But that's the end of this video. Love you guys. Have a happy new year, like I said. And goodbye.